we're going to talk about briefly the history of hoarding. And one of the first widely known cases, and it's one of my favorite because they were just so interesting. They were the Collyer brothers. And if you just want to Google them, I'll put some information down in the description box. They were fascinating. And this is going to feed into what we're going to talk about a little later about some of the myths that people have about hoarding. So the Collyer brothers were from a well-to-do family. They were educated. Obviously, they were brothers. Langley was an engineer and Homer had been a lawyer. But in his later life, Homer became blind. So Langley became his caregiver. And Dr. Hannan is familiar with this, so he can throw in some tidbits, to help along the story. But basically, they lived in a New York brownstone. And again, engineer and lawyer, they were, fairly well-to-do. But the thing about them is Langley often said that he never opened his mail. Their utilities were turned off. They had isolated themselves. And in this brownstone is where they spent most of their time. It appeared that Langley would leave, at night under dark cover because he didn't want, anyone to see him, and he didn't want any questions asked. So he would often do that. And the funny thing about it is Langley never denied the clutter. He often complained about not having enough to do, which is something that I hear with some of my clients. Do you ever get that from any of your clients, Dr. Hannan?
Yeah, what I hear a lot is I don't have time to do any of this. And then when you start talking about what their day is full of, they're just coming back to like, well, I've got nothing to do. So this kind of bouncing back and forth. I've got nothing to do, but then I don't have any time to clean.
Right. Some time management issues come into it. Maybe, just again, they're feeling overwhelmed and they're not prioritizing what they need to do. Yeah. And that was sort of, Langley along those lines too. Of course, he was a retired engineer, but still, he said all he did was clean, and he could go into the house and say, well, maybe not so much. That was debatable. And so in the end, they were discovered. A neighbor reported them, and, the authorities, because the authorities were familiar with them. It's not like you can live in that type of situation and someone won't report you. We've had those neighbors since 1947. So someone ultimately reported him because there was a smell coming from the house. And the authorities went in and found out, sadly, that Langley and Homer had both died. And they couldn't find them because it was so hoarded in their home that it took them some time to even find their bodies. So that's a very sad situation. And when they finally cleaned the house out, they brought out 130 to 170 tons of debris. I want that to sink in. 130 to 170 tons of debris. To put that in perspective, an elephant weighs a little over a ton. So Dr. Hannan, imagine if we had to go in and pull out 170 elephants. No, thank you. Send in the double. That would be a bit too much.
Right.
Yeah.
And you even think about like what the state of the house was just in terms of safety. Like you got that much tonnage there, like the floors, and because we've been in some homes, right, where you're not feeling secure about the floor and you got that much weight. What is it doing?
Right. Exactly. And we're going to cover, some of those safety issues. And of course, that was a safety issue. And our irony is Langley was likely caught by one of the booby traps that he had set to keep people out. So it's theorized that he triggered one of the booby traps trying to get to his brother, and was unable to get up out of all of the debris that was around him. But wow. In addition to the 170 tons of debris that came out, there were 14 grand pianos, a Model T. That's a car, y'all. That's a full-on car, and a two-headed fetus. Now, I just throw that in because it's interesting.
You know about that one?
I did. I've seen a two-headed fetus, in pictures, but that just kind of took it over the top. So eclectic would probably be a word that people would use. Yes, Dr. Hannan?
And I think that the car, he was trying to use that to generate electricity for the home. Because as you said, because the electricity had been turned off.
Right. And so, again, that will go into what we're going to talk about, in dispelling some of the myths of someone who has a hoarding disorder. Is he was brilliant, maybe misguided, but, okay, let me use this car to warm our house or, so that we can have light. That just amazes me. So again, that was the case of the Collyer brothers back in 1947. So thank you again for taking the time to stop by my channel. And before you leave, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification. Do me one other favor, tell at least 5 people you know about my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And if no one has told you today how awesome you are, I want you to know that you are absolutely, positively awesome. Take care. God bless. Bye.